Hello and welcome aboard my narrowboat for what will be, I hope, the longest duration trip I have ever undertaken on the boat. Yes, a mighty 3 days. Incredibly, in the 18 months or so that I have owned this boat, I've only ever done 2-day trips on it. Well, it is a weekend and short break boat. But today, it's Thursday, and I intend to travel today, tomorrow and Saturday as well. So this is a record-breaking journey. I'm taking the boat from its current mooring at Wigram's Turn down the South Oxford Canal, which I've never been down before, so this is new to me, down to Cropredy Marina, which is surprisingly hard to say, Cropredy Marina, where I've got a friend who I'm going to have afternoon tea with, and I may or may not, at a subsequent date, then take it down the rest of the South Oxford Canal, which again I've never done before, all the way down to Oxford and back, but we'll have to see how the weather is going for that. Speaking of which, next week the forecast is for the start of summer. This week, today, tomorrow and Saturday, it's just the worst weather we've had in several days. It's actually not too bad right at the moment, overcast, but the forecast for all 3 days is intermittent showers and odd bits of sunshine. So sometimes it'll be blissful and sometimes I'm going to be standing on the back, huddled with my coat and jacket wrapped round me and possibly an umbrella up as well. We shall just have to see how things go. But please join me through the magic of the screen, won't you? And let's set off.
I'll be turning left out of the marina as I did last time, so the first few minutes of the cruise will be the same scenery as before. But I stopped at the bottom of Knapton Locks last time, and on this trip I'm heading up through them and onwards beyond as well, so there'll be lots new to see. I turned gently with not the slightest hint of any other boats around. The water was my playground and mine alone. A week before this, I'd finally swapped the gearbox control cable for a new one, though I haven't had time to do the throttle yet. But having done so, I can put the boat into forward gear whilst the engine remains at tickover. Previously, the engine would always throttle up a bit as gear was engaged. It is so much better now, although it was incredibly fiddly getting the adjustment right. These geese gave me a suspicious look, but then I spotted they were new parents. There's so much new life on the canal at this time of year. Back past Knapton narrowboats. And look, I'm in tickover in forward gear. It makes not disturbing moored boats much easier, as well as better manoeuvring. Just when I thought I had the canal to myself, not just one other boat passed by. Not even 2 boats passing by. But 3 other narrowboats in quick succession.
I said before that there are 9 locks at Knapton, and I think I'm confused. I think there are actually 6 locks at Knapton, but then immediately above that there are another 3, but they're technically a different set of locks. Either way, I've got 9 to go through today, and then I will stop. And I'm aiming for a place called Marston Dolls. Marston Dolls top lock has some visitor moorings just after it. I think Marston Dolls sound like a brilliant character name for a private detective. Hi, I'm Marston Dolls. I'm here to solve the case. But that's where I'm aiming anyway.
And yes, then a 4th boat as well. On a random Thursday in May, I hadn't expected this kind of traffic, but perhaps it boded well for going through the locks. I'd put the windlass on the hatch, ready for the locks.
Just coming up to where all the moorings are at the bottom of Napton Locks. So many boats coming the other way today. There's another one coming now. I think that's been 6 so far. It's been crazy. Anyway, it's many months since I last did a lock. I think it was last July that I last went through a lock, so I'm going to have to try and remember how you do them. And now I'm going to have to put you down while I steer past this oncoming boat and all the moored ones.
If you're wondering what the wood is on my roof, it's the pole and gangplank cradle which I'd taken away and re-varnished, but not yet refitted. They are just mooching about.
The upside of so many boats coming towards me is that if they've all been through the locks, then the locks will be empty, which saves me the bother and means they should be all set, ready for me to just go straight into. That is quite the time saver over a flight of 9 locks.
It says much about society that people need to chain their plastic ducks down. Just beyond this bend is the first lock of the Napton flight. Well, this was unexpected. You can just see the high-vis jackets of lock volunteers, which means getting through at least this bottom lock will be a breeze. I thought they were letting a boat down because of the water coming out of the lock, so I pulled into the side. But it turned out they were already setting the lock for me to go in, and in mere moments had started opening the lower gates, beckoning me. Having not lined up with a lock entrance for many months, I was mildly anxious to do this well while eyes were upon me, and fortunately so it came to pass. The lockies, one of whom had only started as a volunteer a week earlier, set about opening the paddles to let the water in. Here's the quick version. The second lock was directly ahead after all these moored boats. With the volunteers manning the bottom lock, I had to go up to set this one on my own. This is all the normal part and parcel of solo boating. As it happened, another boat was coming down, so as soon as the way was clear, I could go in. It always feels a bit like I'm entering space dock on the Enterprise when I do this. I take the boat to the end, bringing it to a halt with a burst of reverse thrust. To my great pleasure, the new Lockie very kindly wandered up to join me and sought the paddles so I could return to the boat. He didn't have to do this, but you generally find the Lockies will do their best to help single-handed boaters. But the water level in the pound beyond was extremely low. Look at how the muddy bottom is showing on the left, and the watermark on the metal armco on the right. When it's this low, you need to stick to the middle as it's the deepest, go slowly, and even then you might ground out. However, my boat has a very shallow draft, and to my surprise, not only did I not even feel the silt grinding on the hull, but I was even able to pull over to the side without getting stuck, so as to wait while another boat came down. In my old boat, or a more conventional narrowboat, I'm pretty sure I'd have got stuck. I was on my own again now, and happily taking my time about bringing the boat up. If you fling open the paddles fully, the water will rush in and your boat will crash around in the lock. So it's much better to just start with half of one paddle until the initial rush of water has subsided, then open that paddle fully, and finally, when the lock's half full, open the second paddle. This all ensures a smooth, bump-free ride up for the boat. That lock and the fourth one were dispatched without problem, and I headed towards Lock 5. You know how owners of VW Beetles and campervans wave at each other when they pass? Well, so do we sea otter owners, and there was another one right here, the owner of which came out to say hello as I went by. The lock volunteers were a distant memory now, so off I trotted, windlass in hand, and swiftly had to come back for another one.
Occasionally you get this type of lock mechanism where you're rotating around here, and I don't like them because you can graze your knuckles on the bar or the balance beam, but also I've had to get out my short and heavy windlass because my usual lightweight aluminium one literally won't do it. So make sure you have a short windlass as well as a long one.
When emptying a lock with no boat in it, I do fling open the paddles. So, as the water rushed out, I checked, as I always do, that Gentian was still secure on its loosely wrapped line around the bollard below, and not floating away into the canal. Lock empty, I opened the gates and closed the paddles, ready to bring the boat in. However, after raising the boat, I then sat there for a while, but for a very good reason.
There is no joy quite like the joy of another boat coming down the lock right in front of you. So you can go straight into theirs, and they can go straight into yours. No messing about with gates. This is bliss.
You can see the other crew preparing to bring their boat down. While they did, I pondered quite the dilemma of where to store my drink while I go along. If I have it here, I have to reach down for it. If stored here, it can fall down the steps and be unreachable, and I don't like it in this nook for some unknown reason. I think what I need to fashion is a pop-out cup holder that I can fasten to the edge of the hatch here. I've been lucky with the weather so far, but then there was the first sprinkling of rain, and I really hoped the heavens were not about to open. When the other boat was ready, we crossed paths in the short pound. one of their crew very kindly staying back to hold the lock gate open as the wind kept trying to shut it, which can be most annoying. With 6 locks done, that was the end of the Napton set, but 3 more were still ahead before I reached my destination for that day. That means the first of them is Lock 7 of 9. I knew canal boating was just like Star Trek. It's actually called Adkins Lock and is rather less glamorous than its science fiction counterpart. And clearly there was some work going on here. Apparently it's been the case for 3 months or so, according to a passing boater I chatted with. But what are the Canal and River Trust up to? They're replacing the piling and restoring the collapsed towpath edge. It didn't take long to get through, and I decided to pull in briefly as I was on the hunt for some lunch.
I've been tipped off that just above the lock over there, you walk down a farm track and there is a shop selling sandwiches, eggs, cakes, all sorts of good things. And as I forgot to bring my bread and various other foodstuffs with me, so I can't make my sandwiches, I'm going to go and investigate.
Gentian looks so tiny when moored. I set off down the towpath, eager to find some food. Then I went straight back to the boat, having realised I'd forgotten my wallet. In a previous video near this stretch, I referred to these, which I was looking at from some distance, I'll point out, as cows. They are not cows. They are water buffalo. And they are curious about narrowboaters, it seems. By this point, the CRT staff were back off their tea break and operating the machinery again. Here's the cafe sign, but note, as I didn't, the days it's open. So I wandered up a long farm track and got here. It was very quiet. Oh yes, that'll be because it was Thursday. So I went back down the long track, hungry. The weather in one direction was lovely. In the other, not so much. I hurried back to the boat with not much further to go.
Well, that was all a bit frustratingly fruitless. However, I have only got 2 more locks to go until I reach my intended destination for today. I've been given a tip-off that about a mile beyond the Marston Dolls top lock there's a lovely spot out in the countryside to moor, so I might have a go at finding that. And then I guess for lunch I'll just have to eat whatever I've got. Some snacks and stuff like that. And hope these clouds overhead don't drop a deluge on me.
Yeah, good luck with that. Those look like very wet clouds indeed. Soon enough, there was my second spatter of the day. This was mercifully brief, and soon the sun was shining again as I came up towards Lock 8 of the 9 I had to do. The timing was impeccable, as there was another boat coming down, so yet again I'd slip smoothly in as soon as they emerged. In a jiffy I was through and heading to Marston Dolls' top lock.
Not only am I at the final lock that I had planned today, Marston Dole's top lock, but there is another boat coming down, which means I can just sweep majestically in when they come out. Oh, and that's the boat bumping around in the wash as they open the lock. And there is a lock keeper on as well. So I should get through this one easy as pie, all being well, and then I can look for somewhere to moor.
Look at all that turbulence. It's no wonder the boat was bouncing around. Let's do this lock at super speed. All I needed to do now was find somewhere nice to stop for the afternoon and overnight. It was all very spring-like. Sure enough, the perfect mooring spot presented itself, so I snuck in between two boats. And once again, the timing was perfect, because now the skies did release their hold on the water. I was safe and sound inside, eating sandwich ingredients, having forgotten to bring the bread. I had a perfect view from my seat. And in the afternoon, it got properly moist. Yes, I was rather pleased I'd stopped by this point. The next day I'd continue cruising with no locks at all on the schedule. Thanks for watching. Cheerio.